She only wanted a place to sit with her twins during a storm. But when the mafia boss told her she wasn't walking away after, she had no idea he meant it literally. What happens when a desperate mother unknowingly sits at the table of the city's most dangerous man? Will she escape his world, or will she become the center of it? If you want to know what happens when Samantha's world collides with Larry's deadly empire, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. This story has twists, danger, obsession, and a mafia boss who doesn't take no for an answer. The rain hammered the streets like bullets, turning the city into a blur of neon and shadow. Samantha Anderson stumbled through the cafe door, soaked to the bone, with 3-year-old Henry clinging to her hip and Carrie clutching her free hand, both crying from cold and exhaustion. She was drowning, not in water, but in life itself. 2 jobs that barely covered rent. No help, no family, an ex who vanished the moment the pregnancy test showed positive. Every day was survival. Every breath was borrowed time. Every decision a calculation between paying for food or keeping the lights on. The cafe was warm, expensive. The kind of place she'd never set foot in under normal circumstances. Crystal chandeliers cast soft light over marble tables. Well-dressed patrons sipped artisan coffee and pretended not to notice the drenched woman with crying children standing in the doorway. All she needed was one empty chair, one moment to catch her breath before heading back into the storm. Her eyes scanned the crowded space and landed on a corner booth, dark leather, dim lighting, and a solitary man nursing an espresso. Expensive suit that probably cost more than her car. Sharp jawline shadowed with stubble, dark hair swept back perfectly, and eyes that could cut through steel, currently fixed on a newspaper he clearly wasn't reading. Something primal told her to walk away. Desperation told her to stay. Samantha approached on trembling legs, trying to quiet Carrie's crying, feeling Henry's small body shaking with cold against her. "Excuse me," her voice came out smaller than intended. "I'm so sorry to bother you, but can I sit here? Just for a moment. The storm. My children are cold, and I just need—" The man looked up slowly, deliberately, as if deciding whether she was worth his time. His gaze swept over her, the trembling hands, the crying children, the cheap coat that did nothing against the rain, the quiet desperation she thought she'd hidden well. For a moment, she thought he'd say no. Then his lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. Not warmth, not kindness. Recognition. "Sit," he said, his voice low, smooth, dangerous, like velvet wrapped around a blade. "But don't think you're walking away after." Samantha's stomach twisted, but Carrie was crying harder now, and Henry's cough, the one that had been getting worse all week, rattled in his small chest. She didn't have the luxury of trusting her instincts. She slid into the booth, murmuring apologies, settling Carrie on her lap, while Henry pressed against her side, still sniffling. The man across from her didn't move, didn't speak, just watched with those unreadable dark eyes that seemed to see everything, every fear, every struggle, every desperate choice that had led her to this moment. Samantha didn't know it yet, but she had just asked the wrong man the simplest question, and walked straight into the heart of a world where protection comes with a price. Obsession wears a tailored suit, and once a mafia boss decides something is his, he never lets go. The warmth of the cafe wrapped around Samantha like a blanket she couldn't afford. Carrie had finally stopped crying, her small face pressed against Samantha's wet coat, tiny fists clutching the fabric. Henry sat rigid beside her, his observant eyes watching the strange man across the table. Samantha tried to make herself smaller, invisible, temporary, a skill she'd perfected over 3 years of single motherhood in a city that didn't care about people like her. "Thank you," she whispered. "We'll just stay until the rain stops. I promise we won't bother you." "Will you?" His voice was different now, softer, but somehow more dangerous, like a predator deciding whether to pounce or play. Samantha's throat tightened. Yes, if that's okay." He folded his newspaper with precise, controlled movements. Everything about him screamed power, control, danger. The expensive watch on his wrist caught the light. Patek Philippe, she thought, recognizing it from a magazine she'd flipped through in a waiting room once, the kind that cost more than she'd earn in 5 years. "What's your name?" he asked. She hesitated, some instinct warning her that giving this man her name meant something, meant everything. Samantha Anderson. "And these two?" His gaze shifted to the twins, and something flickered across his face, too fast to read, gone before she could identify it. But for just a second, his expression had softened, cracked, revealed something raw underneath. "Henry and Carrie," she said, pulling them closer protectively. "How old?" 3. She frowned. "Why?" He lifted his hand, a small gesture, barely noticeable, and a waitress appeared instantly, as if summoned by invisible strings. The young woman looked nervous, deferential, almost afraid. "Mr. Castellano," she breathed. "What can I get you?" Mr. Castellano. The name meant nothing to Samantha, but the way the waitress said it, like a prayer and a warning combined, sent ice down her spine. "Hot chocolate for the children," he said without looking at the waitress, his eyes still fixed on the twins. "Make it the good kind, not that powdered garbage. Real chocolate, steamed milk, whipped cream, soup, chicken, mild, nothing spicy, fresh bread with butter, grilled cheese sandwiches cut into small pieces." He finally glanced at Samantha. "And whatever she wants." "Sir, I can't," Samantha started, panic rising. She had maybe $15 in her wallet. This cafe looked like it charged that much for a coffee. "You can," he interrupted, his tone leaving absolutely no room for argument. "And you will." "I don't even know." "Larry," he said. "My name is Larry Castellano. Now you know me. Order what you want, Samantha Anderson." The way he said her name, like he was memorizing it, claiming it, made her shiver. "Just coffee. Black. Thank you." Larry's eyes narrowed slightly, seeing through the lie. She wasn't hungry, or she couldn't afford to be. "The chef's special," he told the waitress. "Whatever's good today, and make sure those children get warm towels." The waitress scurried away, and Samantha found herself alone with this stranger who somehow knew exactly what her children needed, who commanded staff with a gesture, who looked at Henry and Carrie like they mattered. "You didn't have to do that," she said quietly. "No," he agreed. "I didn't." "Then why?" "Because you walked up to my table," Larry said simply. "That makes you my responsibility for however long you're sitting here." "That's not how the world works." His smile was dangerous. "It's how my world works." Before Samantha could respond, the waitress returned with warm, plush towels. Carrie perked up immediately, giggling as Samantha dried her face and hair. Henry remained quiet, but his cough had eased in the warmth. The food arrived quickly, too quickly, as if the kitchen had dropped everything else. The hot chocolate came in actual ceramic mugs, topped with real whipped cream and chocolate shavings. The soup was clearly homemade. The grilled cheese sandwiches were perfectly golden, cut into dinosaur shapes that made Carrie squeal with delight. Henry looked at Larry, then at his mother, waiting for permission. "It's okay, baby," Samantha whispered. "You can eat." The twins dove in with the desperation of children who didn't get enough consistent meals. Samantha's heart ached watching them, knowing this single meal probably cost more than she spent on groceries in a week. Her own plate arrived. Pasta with what looked like lobster, truffle oil glistening, herbs she couldn't name. It smelled like heaven. "Eat," Larry commanded gently when she just stared at it. "I'm not hungry." "You're a terrible liar, Samantha." His eyes held hers. "Your children are eating. They feel safe enough to eat. That means you can too. Let yourself have this moment." Something in his words cracked her defenses. Maybe it was exhaustion. Maybe it was the warmth finally seeping into her bones. Maybe it was the way he'd made her children smile for the first time all day. She ate. It was the best thing she'd tasted in years. As they ate in companionable silence, broken only by Carrie's happy chatter and Henry's quiet questions about the dinosaur sandwiches, Samantha studied the man across from her. Larry Castellano. He looked like he could be in business, something corporate, high level. But there was something else. The way the staff treated him, the way other patrons avoided looking directly at their table, the way he sat, relaxed but coiled, like a predator at rest. "What do you do?" she asked before she could stop herself. Larry's smile was enigmatic. "I solve problems." "What kind of problems?" "The kind most people don't want to think about." It wasn't an answer, but something told Samantha not to push. Outside, the rain had slowed to a drizzle. Samantha checked her phone. Her shift at the gas station started in 2 hours. She needed to get the twins to the neighbor who watched them, needed to change into her uniform, needed to keep moving because stopping meant thinking and thinking meant breaking. "We should go," she said reluctantly, watching Carrie's face fall. "Where are you going?" "Work." "In this?" Larry glanced at the window. "The storm's not over. Just pausing. I can't miss my shift." "Where do you work?" Samantha hesitated, then figured it didn't matter. "Gas station, on 5th and Morrison. Night shift." Something hardened in Larry's expression. "That's a dangerous neighborhood." "It's what I have. And the twins? My neighbor watches them." "In a dangerous neighborhood." Samantha's chin lifted defensively. "I do what I can with what I have. Not all of us get to choose." Larry studied her for a long moment, and she thought she saw something like respect flicker in his eyes. "You're a good mother," he said finally. The unexpected compliment brought tears to her eyes. She blinked them back furiously. "I try." Larry reached into his jacket. Samantha tensed, but he just pulled out a card. Sleek, black, with only a phone number embossed in silver. No name, no company. "Take this," he said, sliding it across the table. "What is it?" "My direct line." "You need anything at all, you call that number." "I can't. You can." His voice dropped, became something else entirely. "Because I meant what I said, Samantha. You sat at my table. That makes you mine to watch over now. Call if you need help, or protection, or just a warm place for your children to sit." Samantha took the card with trembling fingers, not understanding why, but knowing somehow that refusing would be worse. Larry stood, pulling out his wallet. He left several $100 bills on the table, far more than the meal cost. "The rest is for you," he said when she opened her mouth to protest. Get your children something warm to wear. Get yourself a decent coat. And don't argue." He leaned down, and for a terrifying electric moment, Samantha thought he might kiss her. Instead, he pressed his lips to Carrie's forehead, then Henry's. "Stay warm, little ones," he murmured. Then he looked at Samantha, his dark eyes burning with something she couldn't name. "This isn't goodbye, Samantha Anderson. It's just the beginning." He walked away, the crowd parting for him automatically, and disappeared into a black car that had pulled up outside. Samantha sat frozen, Carrie playing with the whipped cream on her mug, Henry watching the door where the strange man had vanished. "Mama," Henry said quietly. "Who was that?" "I don't know, baby," Samantha whispered, staring at the black card in her hand. But even then, something deep inside her knew the truth. That was the man who was going to change everything. Samantha didn't call the number on the card. She tucked it into her wallet, behind her expired student ID and the photo of the twins as newborns, and tried to convince herself the cafe encounter had been a one-time kindness from a wealthy stranger with too much money and a momentary soft spot for struggling mothers. She almost believed it. Until strange things started happening. The first incident came 2 days later. Her landlord, Mr. Kowalski, a perpetually angry man who had been threatening eviction for the past 3 months, knocked on her door with an expression she'd never seen before. Fear. "Your rent," he said, not meeting her eyes. "It's been handled. Paid in full. 6 months." Samantha's blood went cold. "What? By who?" "I don't ask questions when men in expensive suits hand me cash, Ms. Anderson. I just take it and say thank you." He shifted uncomfortably. "You've got no worries for half a year. And, if you need any repairs, you let me know. The heat, the water heater, whatever. On the house." He practically ran back down the hallway. Samantha closed her door slowly, mind racing. Men in expensive suits. Cash payment. 6 months of rent. Nearly $8,000. Just handled. She pulled out the black card, staring at the silver numbers. No, she couldn't. Accepting a meal was one thing, but this? The next day, she went to pay Henry's medical bill at the community clinic. The receptionist looked confused when Samantha pulled out her carefully saved cash. "Ms. Anderson, your account shows 0 balance." "That's impossible. Henry's visit last week, the antibiotics, the inhaler, all paid. Yesterday, in full." The receptionist checked her computer again. "Says here it was an anonymous donation through our benefactor program." Samantha's hands shook. "How much was paid?" $1,200. Your balance is clear." $1,200. Gone. Just like that. That evening, she found a new car seat in her ancient Honda Civic. Top of the line, properly installed, with a note tucked inside. "Children deserve to be safe, L." The following morning, groceries appeared at her door. Not a small bag. Boxes of food. Real food. Fresh vegetables, quality meat. Milk that wasn't about to expire. Snacks that weren't generic store brand. By the end of the week, her bank account, which usually hovered dangerously close to overdraft, showed 3 separate anonymous deposits totaling $5,000. Samantha sat on her worn couch, surrounded by evidence of impossible kindness, and felt the walls closing in. Because this wasn't kindness. This was something else. Something that felt like a golden cage being constructed around her, one gift at a time. She grabbed her phone and dialed the number she'd tried so hard to ignore. He answered on the first ring. "Samantha." Not a question. He'd known it would be her. Her breath caught at the sound of his voice, smooth, controlled, intimate in a way that shouldn't be possible over a phone. "Who are you?" she demanded, trying to sound angry instead of terrified. "You know who I am." "No, I know your name. I don't know who you really are. I don't know why you're doing this. I don't know—" Her voice cracked. "I don't know what you want from me." A long pause. She heard the sound of a door closing, footsteps, then silence. "Larry Castellano," he said finally, each word deliberate. "I run a family business in this city. Import, export, real estate, construction. Various interests. That's not what I'm asking. Isn't it?" His voice dropped lower. "You want to know why I'm helping you? Why I can't seem to stop thinking about a woman with tired eyes and two beautiful children who asked for nothing but a place to sit out of the rain?" Samantha's heart hammered. "Yes, because you didn't ask for help," Larry said quietly. "You didn't beg, didn't try to use your children for sympathy, didn't play games. You just existed, survived, fought for them with everything you had. Do you know how rare that is? Lots of mothers struggle, and most eventually break, or compromise, or give up pieces of themselves until there's nothing left." She heard something shift in his voice. "You haven't. You're still fighting, still protecting them, still standing when any reasonable person would have crumbled. That doesn't explain the rent, the medical bills, the—" "I have resources," he interrupted. "More money than I know what to do with, more power than most people could imagine. And for the first time in 5 years, I want to use it for something that matters. I'm not a charity case." "No," he agreed. "You're not. You're something much more dangerous." "What does that mean?" Another pause, heavier this time. "It means I told you in that cafe you weren't walking away," Larry said softly. "I meant it, Samantha. I meant every word. You're under my protection now, whether you want it or not. You can't just claim people." "I can. I do. I have." His voice hardened. "And in this case, I must." "Why?" "Because your ex-husband is involved with people who want to hurt me." The world tilted. "What?" "Victor Kane," Larry said, and hearing her ex's name in his mouth felt wrong, violated. "He owes money to Julian Cross, a man who controls the East Side. Gambling debts, drug debts, money he stole. Julian's been pressuring Victor for repayment. Victor mentioned he had children, twins, with a woman who had no protection, no family, no one watching out for her." Samantha felt sick. "You're saying—" "I'm saying Victor made you and those children into potential collateral without even realizing it," Larry said bluntly. "Julian's been watching you, considering whether you're worth taking to force Victor's hand, or mine if he finds out about our connection." "We don't have a connection." "We do now," Larry said simply. "The moment you sat at my table, the moment I decided to help you, you became mine in the eyes of this world. That makes you a target. But it also makes you untouchable, because anyone who hurts what's mine learns exactly what happens when they cross Larry Castellano." Samantha couldn't breathe. This wasn't real. This couldn't be real. "This is insane." "This is my life," he corrected. "And now, whether you like it or not, it's touching yours. So you have two choices, Samantha. You can keep fighting me, keep trying to pretend you don't need protection, and risk Julian making a move against you and those twins. Or you can accept reality and let me Puiti do what I do best, which is protect what's mine. There it was again, mine. The word that should terrify her, but instead sent something hot and confusing through her chest. I need to think, she whispered. Think fast, Larry said, not unkindly. Because Julian doesn't wait, Victor is desperate, and I won't let anything happen to Henry and Carrie. The line went dead. Samantha sat in her dark apartment, surrounded by groceries she didn't buy and safety she didn't ask for, and realized with creeping horror that she'd already made her choice. She'd made it the moment she'd taken his card, the moment she'd sat at his table and let him feed her children, the moment she'd heard his voice say her name like it meant something. The cage was already closed. The question was whether she'd spend her time trying to escape or learning to live in the dangerous safety of Larry Castellano's world. For 2 weeks, Samantha tried to maintain her normal life. She worked her shifts, though she noticed men in dark suits positioned casually near the gas station, watching but never interfering. She took the twins to the park and saw the same men at strategic distances, creating an invisible perimeter. She went to the grocery store, the clinic, the library, and everywhere always there were shadows following, protecting, guarding, claiming. She didn't call Larry again, but she felt him everywhere, an invisible presence that had wrapped itself around her life like smoke, intangible but impossible to ignore. Then the invitation came, a hand-delivered envelope, thick cream paper, her name written in elegant script. Inside, a single card. Dinner. Saturday, 7 p.m. My mother insists on meeting the woman and children I can't stop talking about. A car will collect you at 6:30. Dress comfortably. Elena doesn't care about appearances, only character. Samantha read it 3 times, heart pounding. His mother. He'd told his mother about her, about Henry and Carrie. She should refuse, should establish boundaries, make clear that whatever strange arrangement they'd fallen into couldn't continue. But Saturday came, and she found herself digging through her limited wardrobe for something presentable. The best she could manage was a simple navy dress she'd worn to a job interview years ago, cleaned and pressed with desperate care. She dressed the twins in their Sunday church clothes, hand-me-downs from the charity bin, but clean and respectable. At exactly 6:30, a black SUV pulled up outside her building. A woman stepped out, late 20s, athletic build, dark hair pulled into a sleek ponytail, wearing a tailored suit that somehow looked both professional and deadly. She moved with military precision. Ms. Anderson, I'm Isabella Torres. I head security for Mr. Castellano. I'll be driving you this evening. Samantha stared. Security? Of course he had security. Is this safe? She pulled the twins closer. Isabella's expression softened slightly. Safest car in the city, ma'am. Bulletproof glass, reinforced armor, enough security protocols to protect a head of state. Your children will be perfectly safe. You have my word. You give your word a lot in your line of work? Isabella's smile was genuine. Only when I mean it. Shall we? The drive took 40 minutes, leaving the struggling neighborhoods where Samantha lived and entering areas she'd only seen in magazines. The houses grew larger, the gates taller. The distance between properties wider. Old money. Real power. Finally, they turned onto a private drive lined with ancient oak trees. At the end sat a mansion that looked like something from a movie. Italian Renaissance architecture, perfectly manicured grounds, a fountain in the circular driveway. "Welcome to the Castellano estate," Isabella said, opening the door. Carrie gasped, pointing at the fountain. "Mama, look! It's a palace!" "Not quite, sweetheart," Samantha murmured, but her daughter wasn't entirely wrong. The front door opened before they reached it. An elegant woman stood there, silver hair styled in a classic updo, wearing a burgundy silk blouse and tailored slacks. She had Larry's eyes, dark, penetrating, seeing everything. But where Larry's held danger, hers held warmth, tempered with steel. "You must be Samantha," the woman said, her voice cultured with a hint of an Italian accent. "I'm Elena Castellano, and these," she knelt down, eye level with the twins, "must be Henry and Carrie. Larry told me you were beautiful, but he didn't do you justice." Carrie, bold as always, stepped forward. "You have a palace!" Elena laughed, a rich, genuine sound. "Do I? Well, then you must be royalty, because only royalty gets invited to palaces. Come inside, your highnesses. We have cookies fresh from the oven." That easily, Carrie was won over. Henry, more cautious, looked to Samantha for permission before taking Elena's offered hand. Inside was even more magnificent. Marble floors, art that looked centuries old, chandeliers that cast golden light across everything. But Elena led them away from the formal rooms to a cozy sitting area with comfortable sofas, a fireplace crackling warmly, and a coffee table already set with milk, cookies, and a tea service. "Sit, please," Elena said, settling the twins on a plush rug with coloring books and crayons that appeared from nowhere. "Larry is finishing a call. He'll join us shortly." Samantha perched on the edge of a sofa, feeling completely out of place. Elena poured tea, real tea, from a delicate china pot and studied Samantha with those penetrating eyes. "You're frightened," she said gently. "Of my son, of this world, of what accepting his protection means." Samantha's hands trembled around the cup. "I don't understand any of this." "No," Elena agreed. "I don't suppose you would. Let me tell you something about my son, Samantha." "May I call you Samantha?" "Yes, ma'am." "Elena, please. We're going to be family after all." Samantha nearly dropped her tea. "I'm sorry, what?" Elena smiled. "Oh, he hasn't said it yet. But I know my son. I haven't seen him look at anyone the way he looks at you since, well, since before." "Before what?" The light in Elena's eyes dimmed. 5 years ago, Larry had a family. A beautiful wife named Sophia. 2 children, Gabriella and Marco, 4 and 3 years old. Samantha's blood went cold. Had? A rival family decided to send a message, Elena said softly, her voice heavy with old grief. They targeted what Larry loved most. Car bomb. Sophia and the children died instantly. Horror washed over Samantha. Oh God. Larry became something else that day, Elena continued. Something harder, colder. He expanded his territory through violence, ruled through fear, and locked his heart away where no one could reach it. I thought I'd lost my son along with my grandchildren. She looked at Henry and Carrie, coloring peacefully on the rug. And then, 3 weeks ago, he came to dinner and couldn't stop talking about a woman in a cafe, a mother with twins, children who needed protection, a woman who asked for nothing but a place to sit. Elena's eyes met Samantha's. He came alive again. For the first time in 5 years, he had something to care about, besides revenge and power. Samantha shook her head. This is too much. I barely know him. We met once. Sometimes once is enough, Elena said. Do you believe in fate, Samantha? I don't know. I do. I believe you walked into that cafe exactly when you needed to. When Larry needed you to. When those beautiful children needed someone who could keep them safe from a world you don't even know is threatening them. Victor, Samantha whispered. Yes, your ex-husband is a fool who's made dangerous friends. But you're under Castellano protection now. Nothing will touch you or those children. Not while Larry draws breath. Footsteps sounded in the hallway. Measured, confident, Samantha's heart jumped into her throat. Larry entered the room, and the entire atmosphere shifted. He was dressed more casually than in the cafe. Dark jeans, a black button-down with the sleeves rolled to his elbows, revealing strong forearms. His hair was slightly mussed, as if he'd run his hands through it repeatedly. But his eyes went straight to the twins, softening in a way Samantha hadn't seen before. Carrie? Henry? He said, his voice gentle. It's good to see you again. Carrie jumped up immediately, running to him with zero hesitation. Mr. Larry, we're in your palace, and there are cookies, and I colored you a picture. She grabbed his hand, pulling him toward the rug. Henry watched more carefully, but when Larry knelt down and admired Carrie's crayon drawing with genuine interest, the little boy relaxed. Samantha watched, frozen, as this dangerous man, this mafia boss who apparently ruled through fear and violence, sat on the floor with her children and discussed the relative merits of different crayon colors with complete sincerity. Elena touched her arm gently. You see, he was made for this. Made to be a father. Made to protect. He just needed someone to remember how. I can't be that someone, Samantha whispered desperately. I'm nobody. You're the mother of 2 children who need him as much as he needs them, Elena interrupted. And whether you admit it yet or not, you need him too. Before Samantha could respond, Henry, quiet, observant Henry, climbed into Larry's lap and asked if he could read him the book about trucks on the coffee table. Larry's expression transformed. For just a moment, pure, raw emotion crossed his face. Joy, pain, grief, hope, all mixed together into something that looked like healing. I'd love to, Henry, he said quietly, and began to read. Samantha watched her son, who'd been abandoned by his father, who'd learned not to trust men, who barely spoke to strangers, relax completely against Larry's chest, following along with the pictures. And she felt something inside her crack. A wall she'd built carefully over 3 years of single motherhood, a defense against hoping for things she couldn't have, a resistance to the dangerous, impossible possibility of letting someone in. Elena squeezed her hand. Stay for dinner, my dear. Let's get to know each other. Let those children feel safe and full and happy for one evening. The rest, we can figure out the rest later. Samantha looked at her twins, Carrie chattering away, Henry peaceful in a way he never was, and made a decision that terrified her. Okay, she whispered. We'll stay. Elena smiled. Good, because I suspect you're going to be spending a lot more time here, and between you and me, this house has been far too quiet for far too long. Dinner, Samantha would learn, was just the beginning of learning what Larry Castellano's protection really meant, and how deeply he was already invested in claiming her as his own. Dinner was surreal. The formal dining room could have seated 20, but Elena insisted they eat in the smaller family dining room. More intimate, she'd said with a knowing smile. The table was still enormous by Samantha's standards, dark wood that gleamed under a wrought iron chandelier, but the atmosphere was surprisingly warm. Staff appeared and disappeared like ghosts, setting plates, pouring wine, water for Samantha, who needed to stay clear-headed, bringing course after course of food that made Carrie squeal with delight, and even Henry forget to be cautious. But it was the conversation that unmade Samantha. Larry asked the twins questions with genuine interest. What were their favorite animals? What games did they like? What stories did Mama read before bed? Carrie answered enthusiastically, climbing onto the chair next to Larry's midway through the meal. Henry watched for a while before quietly asking if Larry had any dogs. "Not yet," Larry said, his eyes flicking to Samantha with something that might have been a question. "But I've been thinking about getting one. Maybe a big, gentle breed, good with children. What do you think, Henry? Would you like to help me choose one someday?" Henry's eyes went wide. "Really? Really? Can we, Mama?" Carrie bounced in her seat. "Can we help pick a doggy?" Samantha felt trapped. How did she explain that they couldn't promise future involvement with this man? That this was supposed to be temporary? That letting her children get attached would only break their hearts when reality set in? "We'll see, baby," she said carefully. Larry's eyes held hers across the table. He understood exactly what she wasn't saying. After dinner, Elena took the twins to see the surprise, which turned out to be a playroom that looked like it belonged in a luxury daycare, complete with toys that must have cost thousands of dollars. Carrie was in heaven. Even Henry's reserve cracked at the sight of the elaborate train set, which left Samantha alone with Larry. He poured himself whiskey from a crystal decanter, then gestured toward his study. "Walk with me?" It wasn't really a question. The study was masculine, intimidating. Floor-to-ceiling bookshelves, a massive desk, leather furniture, and a fireplace with flames dancing behind a grate. The room smelled like old books, expensive alcohol, and something distinctly Larry. He closed the door, and suddenly the space felt much smaller. "You're planning to run," he said without preamble. Samantha's head snapped up. "What?" "I can see it in your eyes." Larry leaned against his desk, whiskey in hand, studying her. "You're cataloging exit strategies, trying to figure out how to extract yourself and the twins before we get too close, before they get too attached." "That's not before you get too attached," he continued quietly. The air left her lungs. Larry set down his glass and moved closer, not threatening, but deliberate, giving her space to retreat if she wanted. She didn't move. "I need to tell you something," he said. "Something that will make you understand why I can't let you go. Why I won't." "Larry, 5 years ago," he interrupted, "I had everything. A wife I adored. 2 children who were my world. I thought I was invincible. Thought my power could protect them from anything." His jaw clenched, and Samantha saw the effort it took him to continue. "I was wrong. My enemies found the one weakness I had. My family. They didn't just kill Sophia and the children. They made sure I knew it was my fault. My choices. My world that destroyed them." "That's not true, isn't it?" His eyes were haunted. "If Sophia had married anyone else, she'd be alive. If those children had any father but me, they'd be 7 and 8 now, playing, laughing, living." Samantha's throat tightened. "You can't blame yourself for what evil people did." "Can't I?" He stepped closer, and she could smell his cologne, something expensive and dark. "After they died, I became the monster my enemies thought I was. I destroyed everyone connected to their deaths, not just the men who planted the bomb, but their families, their organizations, their allies. I painted this city red with blood and told myself it was justice. Was it? No, he said flatly. It was grief, rage, a desperate attempt to fill the hole they left behind. And nothing worked. Nothing helped. Until he lifted his hand, stopping just short of touching her face. Until a woman with exhausted eyes and two beautiful children asked if she could sit at my table. Samantha's breath caught. When I looked at Henry and Carrie, Larry continued, his voice dropping to something raw and honest, I saw them, my children. The same age they would have been, the same innocence, the same need for protection. And when I looked at you, saw how you were fighting for them, sacrificing everything. He stopped, jaw working. I saw a second chance, he finished. A chance to do what I failed to do before. To protect, to provide, to keep safe what matters most. We're not your second chance, Samantha whispered, even as her heart cracked at the pain in his eyes. We're not a replacement for what you lost. No, he agreed. You're not. You're something different. Something I didn't expect and can't explain. But Samantha, his hand finally made contact, thumb brushing her cheek. I know what's coming. I know Victor's debts, Julian's plans, the danger circling closer. And I know that if I don't protect you, if I don't claim you as mine publicly and completely, someone will try to use you against me. Or worse, they'll hurt you just to prove they can. So this is just protection, she said, trying to keep her voice steady. Just strategy. Larry's eyes darkened. If that's all it was, I could have just assigned security and written checks from a distance. But I can't. I can't stop thinking about you. Can't stop wanting to see those children safe and happy. Can't stop imagining. He cut himself off, but the damage was done. Imagining what? Samantha pressed, her heart hammering. Imagining what it would be like if this was real, Larry said roughly. If you weren't here out of obligation or fear or necessity. If those children called me something other than Mr. Larry. If I could come home and know you were here, safe, mine. The word again, mine. You barely know me, Samantha protested weakly. I know you're the strongest person I've ever met, Larry said. I know you put your children first, even when it costs you everything. I know you didn't ask for help because you're too proud, too used to surviving alone. I know you're terrified right now, but you're still standing here, still fighting, still trying to protect your children from a world you don't understand. His other hand came up, cradling her face now, his touch gentle, despite the violence she knew those hands were capable of. I know that in 3 weeks, you've made me feel more alive than I've felt in 5 years, he said quietly. And I know that I'm being selfish, pulling you into my world, making decisions for you, whether you want them or not. But Samantha, I can't let you go. I won't, even if you hate me for it. I don't hate you, she whispered, and realized with shock that it was true. She should. This was insane. He was dangerous. This whole situation was impossible. But she didn't hate him. What do you feel? Larry asked, his thumb tracing her lower lip. Terrified, she admitted. Confused. Overwhelmed. What else? Safe, she breathed. For the first time in years, I feel safe. And that scares me more than anything. Larry's expression softened into something that might have been tenderness on a less dangerous man. Then let me keep you safe, he murmured. Let me protect you and Henry and Carrie. Let me give you a life, where you don't have to choose between rent and food, where your children don't wear hand-me-downs unless you want them to, where you can sleep without wondering if tomorrow's the day everything falls apart. And what do you want in return? His smile was almost sad. For you to stay, for those children to be happy. For the chance, just the chance, that someday you might look at me and see something other than the monster everyone else sees. Before Samantha could respond, before she could process the weight of his words, Elena's voice called from the hallway. "Larry! Samantha! The children are asking for you." The moment broke. Larry stepped back, his mask sliding into place, the vulnerable man disappearing behind the controlled mafia boss. "We should go," he said. But as they walked toward the playroom, Larry's hand found the small of her back. Possessive, protective, claiming, and Samantha realized something terrifying. She'd already made her choice. The moment she'd let him touch her face. The moment she'd admitted feeling safe. The moment she'd looked into his eyes and seen not a monster, but a broken man trying to be good again. Elena was right. Sometimes once was enough. Sometimes fate arrived in the form of a desperate woman and a dangerous man, and two children who needed them both. And sometimes the only choice was to surrender to the inevitable. 3 days later, Samantha's carefully maintained denial shattered. She was finishing her shift at the gas station. It was nearly midnight, the neighborhood quiet in that dangerous way that meant trouble could explode without warning, when the door chimed. 3 men entered, not customers. Wrong body language, wrong energy. Samantha's hand moved toward the panic button beneath the counter, the one Larry's people had insisted on installing last week. "We're closed," she said, keeping her voice steady. The lead man, mid-30s, scarred face, wearing a leather jacket that screamed gang affiliation, smiled without warmth. "Are you?" "Because the sign says you're open until 1. I'm closing early tonight." "That's disappointing." He moved closer to the counter, and his companions fanned out, blocking the exits. "We came all this way to meet the woman who's got Larry Castellano so worked up." Ice flooded Samantha's veins. "I don't know what you're talking about." "No?" The man pulled out his phone, showing her photos, her leaving the Castellano estate, Larry's hand on her back, Henry and Carrie playing in Elena's garden. Isabella drives them in the armored SUV. "See, we've been watching," the man continued. "And we're curious. What's so special about a gas station worker and her brats that the most dangerous man in the city can't stop protecting them?" "Get out," Samantha said, her hand finding the button. "Not until we deliver a message." He leaned forward, and Samantha smelled alcohol and violence on him. "Victor Kane sends his regards, says those twins are his blood, and he wants them back. And Julian Cross, you'll meet him soon. He wants to know if you're worth starting a war over." The panic button pressed. The man's smile widened. "Oh, we know about the button, sweetheart. We know about the guards outside. Don't worry, they're occupied. We know about all of Larry's little precautions. But here's what Larry doesn't know yet." He pulled out a knife, casual, like it was nothing. "You're not as protected as you think. And those twins? They're real easy to grab from a daycare. Real easy to make disappear. Unless—" The door exploded inward. Larry Castellano entered like a force of nature. Silent, deadly, radiating violence so thick the temperature seemed to drop. Behind him, 4 of his men spread out with military precision. Isabella was there too, blood on her knuckles, fury in her eyes. "I believe," Larry said, his voice cold enough to freeze hell, "you gentlemen were leaving." The lead man paled, but tried to bluster. We're just delivering a message. I got your message. Larry moved forward, and the man stumbled backward. Now, you get mine. It happened so fast, Samantha barely saw it. One moment, Larry was across the room. The next, he had the man pinned against the wall by his throat, knife clattering to the floor. You came into my territory, Larry said quietly, the softness more terrifying than shouting. Threatened someone under my protection. Mentioned children. His grip tightened. No one touches what's mine. Julian, the man gasped. Julian Cross is about to learn what happens when people forget why they fear the Castellano name, Larry said. And you're going to help him remember. He released the man, who collapsed to his knees, gasping. Get out of my city, Larry ordered. Tell Victor if he wants to see those children. He can file for custody through the courts like a civilized human being. Tell Julian that if he even looks at Samantha or her twins again, I'll burn his entire operation to the ground and salt the earth where it stood. The men scrambled for the door, two of Larry's people following to escort them. Then Larry turned to Samantha, and his expression transformed, the cold mask melting into something raw and concerned. Are you hurt? He was across the counter in seconds, hands running over her arms, checking for injuries. Did they touch you? I'm fine, she managed, though she was shaking. They threatened. I know. Larry pulled her against his chest, and Samantha found herself clinging to him, the adrenaline finally hitting. I know, sweetheart, but they're gone now. They won't come back. They said the twins, daycare. No one's getting near Henry and Carrie, Larry promised fiercely. As of tomorrow, they're moving to a private facility on the estate grounds. Secure, vetted staff, military-grade security. They'll be safe. I can't afford. I can. His hand cupped the back of her head, holding her close. And more importantly, I can't afford not to. Not after tonight. Isabella approached, phone in hand. Boss, we have a problem. The guards we stationed outside, they're alive but unconscious, professional work. This wasn't just Victor's people. Julian sent them, Larry said grimly. He's testing boundaries, trying to see what I'll do. What will you do? Samantha pulled back to look at him. Larry's eyes went cold again. What I always do when someone threatens my family. I remind them why that's a fatal mistake. Larry, your shift is over, he said, not leaving room for argument. Permanently. You're not working here anymore. You're not living in that apartment anymore. You and the twins are moving to the estate until this is resolved. You can't just... he interrupted. I am. Because tonight proved what I already knew. You're not safe outside my direct protection. And I will do whatever it takes to keep you safe, all of you. This is happening because of you, Samantha said, not as an accusation but a statement of fact. If I'd never met you, if you'd never met me, Victor would have already used those children as leverage with Julian. And you'd all be in much worse danger, Larry said bluntly. At least now you have protection, resources, me. He pulled out his phone, typing rapidly. Isabella, arrange transport. I want Samantha and the twins at the estate within the hour. Double security on the apartment while we move her belongings. Everything. I don't want her having any reason to go back there. And get me everything we have on Julian Cross's current operations. Every business, every property, every person on his payroll. Planning something? Isabella asked with a dangerous smile. I'm planning to make an example, Larry said coldly. One that will remind everyone in this city What happens when they touch what belongs to the Castellano family? He turned back to Samantha, his expression softening again. Pack a bag for tonight. Tomorrow, people will move everything else. But right now, we're getting you somewhere safe. What about my job? My lease? All handled. I'll buy out your lease, pay any penalties. Your boss will receive a generous donation for any inconvenience. Money isn't the issue, Samantha. Your safety is the only issue. Samantha wanted to argue, wanted to maintain some independence, some control over her life. But her hands were still shaking, and she kept thinking about that knife, about the threats against her children, about how quickly violence could erupt in a world she didn't understand. "Okay," she whispered. Larry's expression flooded with relief. "Okay," he repeated. "Thank you for trusting me. I don't have a choice." "You do," Larry said seriously. "You always have a choice. But I'm grateful you're choosing safety, choosing to let me protect you." An hour later, Samantha was in the back of the armored SUV with sleeping twins in car seats, watching her old life disappear in the rearview mirror. She was moving into a mansion with a mafia boss. Her children were being enrolled in a private, secure facility. Her ex and his dangerous friends were circling, and somewhere in the middle of all this chaos, she'd stopped thinking of Larry as a threat and started thinking of him as, what? Protector? Provider? Something more dangerous than both? Elena met them at the door, still dressed despite the late hour. Her face creased with concern. "I've had rooms prepared," she said, hugging Samantha tightly. "The twins will be next to yours, and Larry's suite is—" "On the same floor," Larry interjected, "close enough to hear if anything happens." Elena's eyes gleamed with something that might have been approval or amusement. "Of course. Come, my dear, let's get those babies to bed." As Samantha carried Henry upstairs, Carrie already cradled in Larry's arms, she realized this was her life now. Protected, claimed, caught in a world of danger and wealth, and a man who looked at her children like they were treasures worth dying for. And the most terrifying part, she wasn't sure she wanted to leave. The next 2 weeks felt like living in a dream. Beautiful, surreal, and too good to be real. The twins thrived. Henry's cough disappeared, with access to better medical care and clean air. Carrie bloomed under constant attention and security that let her be fearlessly 3 years old. They attended the estate's private daycare, really more of a luxury preschool, where Elena volunteered daily, doting on her grandchildren, as she'd taken to calling them. Samantha had her own suite, bedroom, sitting room, private bathroom with a tub that could fit 3 people. Her closet was mysteriously filled with clothes in her size, tasteful and expensive. When she protested, Elena waved her off. "You're family now. Family doesn't wear 3-year-old clearance rack items." Larry was everywhere and nowhere, present at breakfasts, playing with the twins before their bedtime, appearing at random moments throughout the day. But he never pushed, never demanded, never made Samantha feel trapped. He just existed in her space, solid and protective, until she started seeking him out instead of avoiding him. It started small. A question about the estate. A thank you for a gift left in her room. A conversation about Henry's progress in daycare. Then longer talks, discussions about books in his study. Quiet moments watching the twins play in the garden. Late-night conversations where Larry told her about his childhood, his father's death, the weight of the family business. He never hid what he was, never pretended he wasn't dangerous. wasn't involved in things she didn't want to know about. But he separated that world from the one he created for her and the twins, building a bubble of normalcy inside a life of violence. And Samantha found herself falling. Not quickly, not dramatically, but slowly, inevitably, like water wearing down stone. Falling for the way he remembered Henry liked his sandwiches cut diagonally, for how he never raised his voice around the children, for the gentleness in his hands despite their capacity for violence, for the way he looked at her, like she was precious, important, worth protecting. 2 weeks in, Elena caught her watching Larry play with the twins in the garden. "You care for him," Elena said softly. Samantha didn't deny it. "I don't know how to reconcile it. The man I see with my children versus what I know he does." "My son is complex," Elena agreed. "He's done terrible things, but he's also capable of tremendous love. He loved Sophia and the children with everything he had. Their loss broke something in him, but you and those babies, you're putting the pieces back together. I'm not trying to, I know, that's what makes it real." Elena smiled. "You just existed, and he found his way back to being human. That's powerful, Samantha." That night, after the twins were asleep, Samantha found Larry in his study, working through papers with a crystal of whiskey. "Can I come in?" she asked from the doorway. He looked up immediately, his entire demeanor shifting. "Always." She entered, closing the door behind her, and sat in the chair across from his desk. "I need to ask you something," she said. "Anything. What happened to the men who threatened me? At the gas station?" Larry's expression went carefully neutral. "Do you really want to know?" "Yes." He studied her for a long moment, then set down his pen. "They were sent back to Julian Cross with a message carved into their skin, a reminder that touching what's mine has consequences. 2 of them will recover. 1 won't work again. And the man who held the knife," his eyes went cold. "He learned what happens when you threaten children." Samantha should have been horrified, should have run. Instead, she felt something dark and satisfied curl in her chest. "Good," she said quietly. Larry's eyes widened slightly. "Good?" "They threatened my children. They made Henry cry when I told him we were moving. They scared Carrie so badly she wet the bed for 3 nights. So, yes, good." Something dangerous and pleased flickered across Larry's face. "You're not what I expected, Samantha Anderson. What did you expect? Someone who would hate me for the violence, for what I do, for the world I represent." "I should," Samantha admitted, "but I keep thinking, if you weren't who you are, if you didn't do what you do, we'd have no protection. Victor could have taken them. Julian could have used them. They'd be leverage, tools, victims." She stood, moving closer. "But they're not. They're safe. They're happy. They're thriving. Because of you. Because of what you're willing to do to protect them." Larry stood as well, and suddenly they were very close. "And what about you?" he asked her quietly. "Are you safe? Happy?" "I'm terrified," Samantha whispered, "because I'm starting to feel things I shouldn't. Because this world you've built for us is so perfect, it doesn't feel real. Because I keep waiting for something to go wrong." "What kind of things?" Larry's hand came up, cupping her face. "What are you feeling?" "Like I don't want to leave. Like when you're not around, something's missing. Like—" Her breath caught as his thumb traced her cheekbone. "Like I'm falling for a man I shouldn't fall for." "Why shouldn't you?" "Because you're dangerous. Because this is complicated. Because—" Larry kissed her. It wasn't gentle. It was desperate, claiming 5 years of grief and 2 weeks of restraint finally breaking. His hands threaded through her hair, pulling her closer, and Samantha melted into him, her own hands fisting in his shirt. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Larry rested his forehead against hers. "I've been trying so hard not to push," he murmured, "trying to let you adjust, to give you space, to prove I could be patient. But Samantha, I'm not a patient man. And every day you're under my roof, every time you smile at me, every moment I watch you with those children, I want to keep you more, want to make this permanent. Want to give you my name and my protection and everything I have. Larry, I know it's too fast. I know it's crazy. But I've already buried one family. I can't. I won't watch another one walk away if I have the power to keep them." Samantha pulled back slightly to look at him. "Is that what we are? A family? Aren't you?" His eyes were raw, vulnerable. "Henry calls me Mr. Larry now, instead of avoiding eye contact. Carrie asked yesterday if she could call me Papa Larry. My mother treats you like the daughter she never had, and I—" He stopped, swallowing hard. "I what?" Samantha pressed. "I'm in love with you," Larry said roughly. "Completely. Impossibly. I'm in love with you and those children, and I need you to know that before everything goes to hell." Samantha's heart stopped. "Before what goes to hell?" Larry's expression darkened. "Julian's been too quiet. Victor's disappeared. Something's coming, Samantha. I can feel it. And when it does, I need you to trust me. Need you to know that whatever I do, however bad it looks, I'm doing it to protect you. You're scaring me. Good. Because you should be scared. The calm we've had these 2 weeks, it's ending. And what comes next?" His phone buzzed. Then again, then, constantly. Larry grabbed it, his expression going deadly as he read. "What?" Samantha demanded. "What is it?" He looked up, and she saw something in his eyes that terrified her. "Carrie's daycare called. She didn't show up for the afternoon snack. They thought Elena had taken her early." The world stopped. "Where's Elena?" Samantha's voice was someone else's. "In the garden with Henry." "She doesn't have Carrie." Samantha's legs gave out. Larry caught her, holding her upright even as he barked orders into his phone. "Full lockdown. Every camera, every guard, every asset we have. Find my daughter." "My daughter," he'd said, because that's what Carrie had become. And now she was gone. The next 6 hours were the longest of Samantha's life. The estate transformed into a military operation. Men in dark suits swarmed the grounds. Isabella coordinated with terrifying efficiency. Elena held Henry, who was screaming for his sister, while Samantha sat in Larry's study, unable to move, unable to think, unable to do anything but replay every decision that had led to this moment. Larry was a force of controlled rage. He'd disappeared into what Elena called the war room, a secure space where the family conducted their real business. Samantha could hear his voice through the walls, cold and lethal, issuing orders that made grown men flinch. At hour 3, Isabella brought news. "We found the van, abandoned 2 miles from here. Professional job. No prints, no DNA, cameras were disabled, but we found this." She held up a phone in an evidence bag. On the screen was a photo of Carrie crying in an unfamiliar room. And a message. "Trade. You for the child. Tonight. Warehouse District, Pier 17. Midnight. Come alone, or she dies." Samantha lunged for the phone. "Let me see her. Let me—" "She's alive," Isabella said gently. "Scared, but unharmed. They know Larry will kill them if they hurt her. They're using her as leverage, not a victim." Leverage for what? For Larry to walk into a trap. The study door opened. Larry entered, and Samantha barely recognized him. This wasn't the gentleman who read bedtime stories. This was the mafia boss who ruled through fear. Cold, calculating, deadly. But when he saw Samantha, his expression cracked. "I'm going to get her back," he said. "I swear to you, I'm bringing her home." "They said come alone. It's a trap." "I know." "Then you can't go." Larry knelt in front of her, taking her hands. "Samantha, listen to me. Julian has Carrie because he thinks he can force me to trade myself for her. He thinks my love for you and the twins is a weakness he can exploit. He's right about the love, wrong about the weakness." "What are you saying?" "I'm saying I'm going to that warehouse. But I'm not going alone, and I'm not going unprepared. Julian thinks he's smart. He's about to learn he's just dead." His phone buzzed. He checked it, and his expression went darker. "Dante," he said, the name dripping venom. "My lieutenant. Isabella just confirmed he's been feeding Julian information for months. He helped plan the kidnapping." Betrayal. From inside. "Why," Samantha whispered. "His brother died 5 years ago in an operation I ordered. Dante blamed me. I thought we'd worked through it. I was wrong." Larry stood, his voice going cold again. "But he'll pay for it. They all will." He turned to Isabella. "Mobilize everyone. I want 50 men positioned around that warehouse. Snipers on adjacent buildings. Drones with thermal imaging. The moment I have Carrie, you light that place up." "And if they have more hostages?" Isabella asked. "They don't. Julian's not that smart. He thinks one child is enough leverage. He's wrong." Larry pulled Samantha to her feet, his hands framing her face. "I need you to stay here with Henry and Elena. I need you to be safe. Can you do that for me?" "Bring her home," Samantha choked out. "Please. Bring my baby home." "Our baby," Larry corrected softly. "And I will. I promise you, Samantha. I'm not losing another child. Not while I'm breathing." He kissed her, hard, desperate, like he was pouring everything he felt into that one moment. Then he was gone, taking half the estate's security with him. Elena appeared, putting a warm hand on Samantha's shoulder. "He'll get her back," she said with absolute conviction. "Larry Castellano doesn't break promises, especially not to the people he loves." "What if—" "No what-ifs," Elena interrupted firmly. "We wait. We pray if you're the praying type. And we trust that my son is very, very good at what he does." 2 hours later. Samantha sat in the nursery, Carrie's empty bed a physical pain, when her phone buzzed. A video message from an unknown number. She almost didn't open it. Then she saw Carrie's face in the thumbnail. The video showed Carrie in a dark room. Tear-stained, but alive. A man's voice, cultured, amused, spoke off-camera. "Ms. Anderson, my name is Julian Cross. You and I haven't formally met, but I feel we should. You see, you've taken something that belongs to me, Larry Castellano's attention, and I don't like sharing territory." The camera shifted, showing Dante standing guard, expression blank. By now, Larry's on his way to trade himself for this lovely child. He won't succeed. I have too many precautions. but I wanted you to know something before this ends." Julian stepped into frame. Middle-aged, well-dressed, utterly ordinary except for the cold intelligence in his eyes. "Victor Kane, your pathetic ex-husband? He's been working for me for months. He gave me information about you, about the twins, about your complete lack of protection. He painted such a pretty picture. Desperate single mother, no family, no resources, perfect leverage." Samantha's blood went cold. But then Larry complicated things by deciding to play hero, by making you untouchable, by giving me a much better prize. Julian smiled. "So here's what's going to happen. Larry will die tonight. You and the twins will become my protection, insurance against any retaliation from the Castellano family. Elena won't move against me if I have her grandchildren." The camera shifted back to Carrie, who was crying silently. "So say goodbye to Mr. Larry, Ms. Anderson, and start getting used to your new life." The video ended. Samantha sat frozen, the phone slipping from her hands. Then she was moving, running to the war room where Isabella had set up operations. "Show me," she demanded. "Show me where they are. Where Larry's going." Isabella looked conflicted. "Mrs. Anderson, I'm not Mrs. Anything yet, but I will be if we all survive this," Samantha said with steel she didn't know she possessed. "Now, show me the feeds, show me my daughter, and show me how we're going to make sure Larry Castellano doesn't walk into a death trap." Isabella studied her for a moment, then smiled, sharp and dangerous. "I knew I liked you. All right, here's what we're looking at." The screens lit up with surveillance feeds, building schematics, heat signatures, and, in the center of it all, a single blinking dot representing Larry's position, moving steadily toward Pier 17, toward Carrie, toward a war that would end with blood and fire, and the truth of what it meant to threaten the Castellano family. Midnight at Pier 17 was cold, the harbor wind cutting through abandoned warehouses like knives. Larry Castellano stood outside the designated building, 50 armed men positioned in shadows he knew Julian's people couldn't see. Thermal imaging showed 12 hostiles inside, plus Dante and Julian himself. And Carrie. His Carrie. Scared, but alive. "Remember," he said into his comm, "the child is priority one. Everyone else is expendable." "Copy that, boss," Isabella's voice crackled back. "We have green light on your signal." Larry checked his gun, loaded, safety off, and walked through the warehouse door. The interior was exactly what he'd expected. Empty except for shipping containers creating a maze, dim lighting. Perfect for an ambush. Julian stepped out from behind a container, smiling like they were old friends. "Larry, so good of you to come. Where's the girl?" "Right here." Julian gestured, and Dante appeared, carrying a crying Carrie. Larry's heart twisted, but his expression stayed cold. "Let me see her." Dante brought Carrie closer. She was terrified but unharmed, and the moment she saw Larry, she screamed. "Papa, Larry, Papa, Larry, they took me. I want Mama." "Papa, Larry." Julian's smile widened. Oh, how touching. The great Larry Castellano, playing father to someone else's bastards. "Last chance," Larry said quietly. "Give me the child and walk away. I'll make it quick." "Quick?" Julian laughed. "Larry, you're surrounded. 12 of my best men. You walked in here alone like I told you to, which means you're either very stupid or very confident. Which is it?" Larry smiled. "Neither. I'm just tired of people who don't know when they've already lost. He raised his hand. The signal. The warehouse exploded with controlled violence. Windows shattered as snipers took out Julian's men with surgical precision. Doors burst open as Larry's people flooded in. Dante dove for cover, still holding Carrie, but Isabella was faster. She hit him from the side, a perfect tackle that sent them both sprawling. Carrie rolled free, crying, and Larry was there instantly, scooping her up, shielding her with his body. "I've got you, baby girl," he murmured, even as gunfire erupted around them. "Papa's got you. You're safe." He ran for the exit, Isabella covering their six, as his men systematically took apart Julian's operation. Dante, bleeding from a head wound, pulled his gun. "This is your fault," he screamed at Larry. "My brother died because of you. Everything I've lost. Your brother died because he made a choice," Larry said coldly. Carrie pressed against his chest. "Just like you're about to. Stand down, Dante. So you can kill me? So you can take everything? So I can show mercy," Larry corrected. "For old time's sake. But if you point that gun at my daughter one more second, mercy is off the table." Dante's hand shook. Then he turned the gun toward Julian, who'd been trying to slip away. "You promised," Dante said. "You promised if I helped you, you'd protect me. Give me what I wanted." Julian laughed bitterly. "And you believed me? Idiot." The shot echoed. Dante's body crumpled. Julian had shot his own ally without hesitation. Larry handed Carrie to Isabella. "Get her out. Now." "Boss? Now!" Isabella ran, Carrie crying for "Papa" over her shoulder as Larry turned to face Julian. They were alone now. Larry's men had secured the perimeter. The bodies of Julian's crew were being zip-tied or body-bagged. Just the two of them. "You made a mistake," Larry said conversationally, pulling his gun. "A fatal one." "Did I?" Julian backed toward a container. "I still have Victor. Still have leverage." "Victor's dead," Larry interrupted. "My men found him 3 hours ago in a hotel room. Overdose. Tragic, really. He was about to testify against you in exchange for immunity." Julian's face went pale. "You're lying." "I'm not." Larry advanced slowly. "You lost, Julian. Your operation's done. Your men are gone. Your leverage is safe with her mother. And you," he raised his gun, "you threatened my family." "Wait." The shot was clean, precise, professional. Julian Cross crumpled, and Larry felt nothing but cold satisfaction. He spoke into his calm. "It's done. Clean up crew, move in. And someone tell Samantha I'm bringing Carrie home." The estate was blazing with lights when Larry returned. Elena met him at the door, tears streaming down her face. "Carrie? Safe, unhurt, already asleep in Isabella's car." Then Samantha was there, running, and Larry barely had time to brace before she collided with him. She was crying, shaking, holding him like he might disappear. "You came back," she sobbed. "You came back. I promised." Larry wrapped his arms around her, breathing her in. I told you, I don't break promises to the people I love." Isabella carried in sleeping Carrie, and Samantha immediately took her daughter, clutching her close, tears falling on the toddler's hair. Henry appeared with Elena, and the little boy threw himself at Larry's legs. "You saved Carrie. You're a hero." Larry knelt, pulling Henry into a hug. "I just did what any papa would do, protected my family." Henry pulled back, looking at Larry with his serious, observant eyes. "Are you our papa now?" The question hung in the air. Larry looked at Samantha, who was watching him with her heart in her eyes. "That depends," Larry said carefully. "Would you want me to be?" "Yes." Carrie had woken up, and despite everything she'd been through, she was smiling. "You're Papa Larry, and Mama loves you, and we're a family." Out of the mouths of babes. Samantha laughed through her tears. "She's not wrong." "About which part?" Larry stood, moving closer. "All of it." Samantha shifted Carrie to her hip, her free hand reaching for Larry. "I love you. It's crazy and fast and probably a terrible idea, but I love you. And those children love you. And I don't want to leave. Ever." Larry cupped her face, his thumb wiping away tears. "Then don't. Stay. Be my family. Let me protect you, provide for you, love you the way you deserve. Let me be their father and your—" He paused, pulling something from his pocket. A ring. Simple, elegant, with a diamond that caught the light. "Let me be your husband," Elena gasped. The children cheered, and Samantha looked at this dangerous man who'd saved her daughter, who'd shown her what safety felt like, who looked at her children like they were the most precious things in the world. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes to all of it." Larry kissed her, soft and sweet, while their children laughed and Elena cried happy tears. And in that moment, surrounded by the family he'd built from broken pieces, Larry Castellano finally understood what he'd been searching for since losing everything 5 years ago. Not revenge, not power, not even redemption. Just this. Just them. Just a woman who'd asked for a place to sit and ended up giving him a reason to live again. 6 months later, the wedding was small, intimate, just family, which now included Samantha and the twins officially. Carrie walked down the aisle as flower girl, taking her job very seriously. Henry carried the rings with Isabella's help, wearing a tiny suit that made him look like a miniature Larry. Elena cried through the entire ceremony, and when the priest pronounced them husband and wife, Larry kissed his bride with all the love of a man who'd been given a second chance and intended to make the most of every moment. The reception was held at the estate, under lights strung through Elena's garden. The twins danced with their new papa, who'd legally adopted them the week before. Samantha wore a dress that made her look like a queen, and Larry couldn't take his eyes off her. Later, when the children were asleep and the guests had gone home, Larry found Samantha on the terrace, looking at the stars. "Regrets?" he asked, wrapping his arms around her from behind. "Not one." She leaned into him, "Though I do think about that night in the cafe sometimes. I wonder what would have happened if I'd chosen a different table." "I would have found you anyway," Larry said confidently. "Oh, really? Really? Because you were meant to be mine, Samantha Castellano. From the moment you walked through that door with rain in your hair and desperation in your eyes, you were already mine. I just had to convince you." "Pretty sure of yourself." "Always." He turned her in his arms, kissing her deeply. "But especially about you, about us, about the family we're building." Speaking of building, Samantha pulled back slightly, a secretive smile on her face. "There's something I need to tell you." Larry's eyes widened. "Are you 3 weeks along? I wanted to wait until after the wedding to tell you, but—" He kissed her again, joy flooding through him. "Another one," he breathed. "Another child to protect and love and—" "Or 2, Samantha said. "Twins run in my family, remember?" Larry laughed, full and genuine, the sound of a man completely, impossibly happy. Then I guess we'll need to expand the nursery. And maybe get that dog Henry keeps asking about. And a bigger playroom. And a pony for Carrie. Absolutely not. We'll see. Samantha grinned. I'm told I'm very persuasive. That you are, Mrs. Castellano. That you are. They stood together on the terrace, husband and wife, soon to be parents again, surrounded by the family they'd built from chance and choice and the strange alchemy of love. And Larry thought about the words he'd said that rainy night in the cafe. Sit, but don't think you're walking away after. He'd meant them as a warning. She'd heard them as a promise. And somehow, impossibly, both had been right. What did you think of Larry and Samantha's story? Would you have trusted the Mafia boss? Let us know in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe for more intense romance stories that will keep your heart racing. Hit that notification bell so you never miss an upload.